My BS23 doesn't want me, f21, to go to my best friend's f22 wedding. I found myself in a bit of a pickle recently, and I wanted to share my experience with you all. My boyfriend, Jake, and I have been together for 2 years. We met during our university orientation, and everything seemed perfect. He's met my best friend, Ella, who is about to marry her high school sweetheart, Luke. They've been together for 4 years, and I couldn't be happier for them. Ella asked me to be her maid of honor, and I was over the moon. We've spent months planning for the big day, and I was excited to be a part of such a significant moment in her life. However, things took an unexpected turn when I learned that Ella's fiancé, Luke, chose my ex-boyfriend Sam to be the best man. Now, I hadn't seen Sam in 3 years, and our relationship was a classic case of young love. We dated throughout high school, but when it came time for college, he moved out of state and we went our separate ways. I thought I had moved on, but Jake had other ideas. When I told him about Sam being the best man, Jake was not happy. He expressed his discomfort with the idea of me attending the wedding and participating in all the romantic activities that would involve dancing and walking down the aisle with my ex. I tried to reassure him that our history was in the past and that I would mostly be spending time with him during the wedding. But Jake remained uneasy. He didn't want to see me share those moments with someone who used to be a significant part of my life. He even mentioned that he wouldn't want to be reminded of it every time we visited Ella and Luke's home, where wedding photos would be displayed. I understood his feelings, but I was torn. I loved Jake, but I also wanted to support my best friend on her special day. After reading some comments online, I realized that many people felt Jake was being controlling. I didn't see it that way, though. I knew he wasn't trying to dictate my actions. He was simply expressing his feelings of discomfort. I also clarified that the wedding would feature pictures of the entire wedding party together, and Jake wouldn't be in those photos, which made him feel excluded. I decided it was time to have a serious conversation with him. I wanted to explain that being a maid of honor is more about supporting Ella than reliving my past with Sam. I also planned to talk to Ella about the situation to get her perspective. I didn't think she was trying to set us up or anything like that. She just wanted her best friend by her side. As I prepared for this conversation, I reflected on the nature of weddings and how they can evoke strong emotions. I understood that Jake's feelings were valid, but I also believed that he needed to trust me. I hoped that by discussing our feelings openly, we could find a way to navigate this situation together. I knew this was a pivotal moment for both of us. It was essential to strike a balance between supporting my best friend and reassuring my boyfriend. I wanted to make it clear that my commitment to Jake was unwavering, and I hoped he would come to understand that my role as a maid of honor wouldn't change my feelings for him. In the end, I was determined to find a resolution that honored both my friendship with Ella and my relationship with Jake. I believed that with open communication and understanding, we could work through this challenge together. After all, love and friendship are about supporting one another, even when things get complicated. I want to share a personal experience that has been both challenging and enlightening. It all started when my boyfriend, who is 23, expressed that he didn't want me, a 21-year-old woman, to attend my best friend Ella's wedding. Ella is a wonderful person, and I was honored to be asked to be her maid of honor. However, my boyfriend's reaction threw me for a loop. Initially, I tried to understand his concerns. I thought perhaps he was just feeling anxious about the idea of me being around my ex-boyfriend, Sam, who would also be at the wedding. I assured him that there was nothing romantic about walking down the aisle with someone I hadn't spoken to in years. I was determined to support Ella on her special day, regardless of his feelings. After some back and forth, he reluctantly agreed to come to the wedding, saying he didn't want to miss out on the celebration and didn't like the idea of me having fun without him. For a short while, things seemed to improve. He was sweet and attentive, but soon his behavior began to shift. At first, I appreciated his affection, but it quickly became overwhelming. He started making comments about how I should remember how amazing he was as a boyfriend, which felt more like guilt than genuine affection. I began to notice that he was asking more questions about my whereabouts and who I was with. It escalated to the point where he was reading my messages over my shoulder, which made me uncomfortable. I had always thought it was fine, since we shared passwords and had nothing to hide. But now it felt like he was monitoring my every move. Whenever I went out, he would ask for updates in a way that felt controlling. If I was at the mall, he wanted to know which stores I was visiting and even asked for photos of my meals. At first, I thought he just wanted to feel included, but I soon realized that it was more about control. I felt ashamed to admit that I complied with his requests for a while, but eventually, I grew tired of it. When I confronted him about his need for constant updates, he simply replied, "Just because I want to make sure." But sure of what? He never gave me a clear answer. The situation came to a head when he accused my best friend of trying to manipulate me into getting back with my ex. I was taken aback. I told him that if Ella truly had a vendetta against him, she wouldn't have invited him to the wedding in the first place. He then made it clear that he didn't want me to go, stating that if I did, I would be crossing his boundaries and wouldn't be his girlfriend anymore. That was the moment I realized how controlling he had become. I didn't want to be in a relationship where I felt suffocated or manipulated, so I made the difficult decision to break up with him. It was heartbreaking, and I felt a wave of sadness wash over me. I had invested years of my life into this relationship, and now it felt like I had wasted that time on someone who didn't support my growth. I confided in Ella about the breakup, and while she was sad for me, she also reminded me that I deserved someone who would help me expand my world, not shrink it. I'm now focusing on looking forward to Ella's wedding and supporting her as she embarks on this new chapter in her life. Reflecting on this experience, I realize how important it is to recognize the signs of control in a relationship. I'm grateful for the support and advice I received from others, and I've come to understand the value of prioritizing my own happiness and well-being. I'm ready to embrace my independence and look forward to what the future holds.
I freak up and told my girlfriend of 18 months that she does the least out of all my exes. I recently found myself in a situation that I never thought I would encounter in my relationship. I'm a 23-year-old guy, and I've been dating my girlfriend, who is 21, for about 18 months now. This is my longest relationship, and I genuinely love her. She's beautiful, funny, and smart, and I often feel incredibly lucky to have her in my life. We both attend the same school and even live together, which is a big step for both of us. One night, after a long day, we were snuggling in bed when I asked her a question that would change everything. I wanted to know if I did more for her than her ex did. She responded with a sweet kiss and assured me that I did. Then she turned the question back to me, and in a moment of thoughtlessness, I blurted out that she did the least for me compared to my past relationships. The moment those words left my mouth, I could see her expression shift from affection to shock. She looked at me as if I had just told her a terrible joke. Instead of backtracking and saying I was joking, I dug myself deeper. We ended up arguing for what felt like hours, and I kept insisting that she hadn't done enough for me. She tried to defend herself, mentioning how she often pays for our meals and helps with rent when I'm short on cash. I dismissed her efforts, pointing out that the places she bought food from were close by, and that she was already going to the store anyway. At that point, she was understandably furious. She told me that just because she doesn't keep a tally of what she does for me, doesn't mean she doesn't care. When she asked why I was even with her if I felt this way, I told her it was because I loved her. But my words didn't seem to help. She rolled her eyes and suggested I should just be with my exes if I felt that way. The next morning, I tried to hug her, but she resisted. I took a shower, hoping things would cool down, but when I came out, she was gone without a word. I reached out to her through texts, but she ignored me. I felt lost and desperate to fix the situation, not knowing how to approach it. As I reflected on the argument, I realized how ungrateful I had sounded. I had been keeping score in a relationship that should be about love and appreciation. I received a lot of feedback from friends and even strangers online, who pointed out that relationships aren't about tallying up who does more. They emphasized the importance of gratitude and perspective, which I clearly lacked. On Christmas Eve, my girlfriend finally returned home after ignoring me for the entire day. I was hopeful, but she started packing her bags. When I asked her what she was doing, she told me she had booked a last-minute bus ticket back to her hometown for the holidays. She needed a break from me to think about our relationship. I was devastated and pleaded with her to stay. But she was resolute. She told me she wanted to go no contact until she returned from winter break, leaving me feeling heartbroken and regretful. Now I'm left to ponder my mistakes and hope that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance for us to reconnect when she's ready. I've learned a painful lesson about appreciation in relationships, and I can only hope that I can make it right if given the opportunity. I recently found myself in a tough spot with my girlfriend of 18 months. It all started when I made a careless comment that I now deeply regret. In a moment of frustration, I told her that she does the least out of all my exes. I know, not my finest hour. Looking back, I realize how unfair and hurtful that was. Relationships should never be about keeping score or comparing partners. I thought I was just expressing my feelings, but instead, I ended up hurting her. After that conversation, things took a turn. She needed some space to think about our relationship, and I completely understood. However, as the holidays approached, I found myself in a state of limbo. We had always communicated openly, but now we were at a standstill. I asked her about the status of our relationship, and she said she didn't know. She promised we would talk about it when she returned, but that left me feeling anxious and alone. So here I am, facing the holidays without clarity about where we stand. It's a tough pill to swallow, especially when I had hoped to spend this time together. I've learned a valuable lesson through this experience. Relationships aren't about tallying up who does more. They're about understanding, support, and love. I just hope I can find a way to make things right when we finally talk.
TIFF update. Going to my ex's wedding. I recently found myself in a rather bizarre situation after attending my ex's wedding. It all started when I received a flood of messages from various people who were at the event. Let me tell you, it was a roller coaster of awkwardness. First, a random guy reached out to me on Instagram. He introduced himself as a friend of the groom and warned me that he would make me regret ever being near his friend or his friend's new wife again. I mean, who knew weddings could come with such threats? Then there was a fellow single friend I made at the wedding. He mentioned that the groom's dad owned an umbrella business and had been trying to sell him umbrellas, despite joking about their poor quality during the wedding. Apparently, the dad was a bit tipsy when he made that comment, and now he was spamming my friend with sales pitches. Talk about mixed signals. Next up was one of my ex's exes, who decided to slide into my DMs. He wanted to know if it was true that I had, well, peed on the bride. I confirmed it was consensual, but as he kept asking more and more detailed questions, I started to feel uncomfortable. It seemed like he was getting a little too interested, so I quickly exited that conversation when he asked for my number to create a group chat with all the exes. I could only imagine what kind of awkwardness would ensue from that. Then there was this other person who never introduced themselves, but decided to target my Instagram comments. They claimed I had peed on their best friend, the bride, and started replying to everyone who commented on my post. I blocked them, made my account private, and disabled comments, but the damage was done. Friends, family, and coworkers reached out, asking if the rumors were true. I only told my close friends what really happened. To top it all off, I received a call from my ex's husband. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. He was apologizing on behalf of his wife for the whole situation. Apparently, he had been busy with work during the wedding planning and had little involvement. He joked about how she tried to gaslight him into thinking she had informed him about her exes, which was clearly not the case. As we talked, I could hear the sounds of a video game in the background. He was multitasking, pausing mid-sentence to focus on his game. I eventually asked if it was a bad time, and he casually replied, "I'm on my honeymoon, bro. It's all good." I apologized for any discomfort my presence at the wedding may have caused, and he playfully encouraged me to avoid weddings of people I had, well, peed on. I agreed, but when he asked what lesson I had learned, I realized he had completely forgotten what we were talking about. At that point, I decided it was best to end the conversation. Since then, things have quieted down. Except for the umbrella salesman who just won't give up. Hopefully, everyone else has moved on from the wedding drama. Who knew attending a wedding could lead to such a wild series of events?